in the matchup between the Washington football team and the Philadelphia Eagles, who do you have coming out on top and why?
Well, both teams are pretty battered and bruised. I saw the injury report this morning for Philly. I also saw that there were a lot of COVID cases going around the NFL, and that Taylor Heineke was out. I believe late in that game against Dallas, as well as Logan Thomas officially being ruled out with a torn ACL, and a couple of other people here and there being injured on the Washington side. So it's going to be who steps up. It's going to be next man up. It is going to be who is able to run the ball efficiently. Miles Sanders is limited for the Eagles with an ankle injury. Jordan Howard is limited with a knee injury. So this is going to come down to basically Boston Scott, and I believe the rookie is Kenneth Gainwell, in terms of running the ball. I'm not saying that neither of the two backs that I mentioned first, and Jordan and Miles, will not play. But when you have lower leg injuries this late in the season, and what's going to be, I would predict, to be a very physical divisional game that's going to determine your playoff outcome, to be very difficult for them to run consistently. So Jalen Hurts, Taylor Heineke, again, both quarterbacks are hurt. Jalen with an ankle injury that caused him to miss last week. And then, of course, Taylor Heineke exiting last week's game against Dallas. I don't know the significance of that injury, but I do know that that is going to also make a difference. So we're going to have to see. I'm going to be a little biased here. I'm going to say that Philadelphia is going to find a way to get it done. I just think the Philadelphia's defense is just a little bit better. The fact that Darius Slay is having an all-pro caliber year, Fletcher Cox is playing very well, and, I think that the Eagles are playing good football as of recently, especially when they are able to run the ball similarly to the Colts. If they're running the ball 30 to 35 times as a team, I believe they're averaging almost 160 to 175 yards per game. So that's pretty big for a team overall. I know that Jalen Hurts has a lot of those rushing yards himself, but I know that that does make a difference overall in terms of the team's complete output. So I'm going to say Philadelphia wins a close one. And the reason I say a close one is because of the injuries. And I don't know who is really going to be able to step up for both teams just because of all of those. So I say Philly wins on a field goal late. Jake Elliott's pretty clutch. And I also believe that Philadelphia being home is going to be a difference maker.
Yeah, this is a tough one for me because, Kevin, let's be honest. Do both of these teams really thrill us? I
No.
wouldn't say particularly. But there have been moments where I think both teams have shown some flashes of some future potential, but that's pretty much it. Both these teams are pretty middle road. But in this matchup, I'm going to agree with you. I'm going to go with the Eagles in a close one. Now, the one thing that's going to be interesting ahead of this game is obviously the availability of Jalen Hurts. He's been dealing with an ankle injury for the last week and a half or so. And going into this game, both Jalen Hurts and Gardner Minshew have been splitting reps at practice ahead of this matchup. So it'll be interesting to see who's going to get the starting spot in this matchup against Washington. I would imagine if Jalen Hurts is healthy and ready to go, that he'll get the start. But I have to say that I thought Gardner Minshew, I thought he filled in pretty well in the game for the Eagles when they went up to MetLife Stadium and gave the Jets an ass whooping last week in Week 14. So with Philly, if they're able to run the ball effectively, like you mentioned, I think they'll be okay. It's just whether or not that Nick Sirianni is going to have that in the playbook going into this weekend, or it's just as far as the game plan goes, because there have been times where we have seen Nick Sirianni rely heavily on Jalen Hurts and that RPO that they run, and they don't really run what you would consider like a traditional running back set. It's mostly a college-based offense in that regard, and it has kind of gone to their hindrance to a certain extent just because it kind of leaves that offense one-dimensional. So kind of seeing just the availability of the quarterback situation with Jalen Hurts is going to be an interesting one for me. But I still think that the Eagles will come out on top. And that's despite the fact that I thought Washington, they've been playing pretty well of late. Granted, their 4-game winning streak did come to an end last week. And, both teams have been dealing with injury issues the entire year. Chase Young is not going to be in this game. He's been out for the last couple of weeks with a torn ACL. Logan Thomas is out for the rest of the year with a torn ACL. So really just, it kind of seems like Washington, these injuries are starting to mount. And I just don't think it's going to be enough to get past the Eagles in this one. I think it's going to be a relatively close game. I think Philly is going to win this one by about 4 to 7 points. And as far as the score goes, I'm going to say that the Eagles win this one by the score of, I'm going to say 24-17. I don't think it's going to be a high scoring game, but I think as long as the Eagles don't turn the ball over and they maintain a good time of possession against Washington, I think it'll be enough to get past Washington. And it would get them back to a 500 record, and really that's kind of the best thing that you could hope for in these last couple of weeks of the season. But I do have the Eagles winning this one in a close one.